Hello, hello. How we doing? How is everybody doing? Rough week, Adrian? Are we still sick? How's everybody else? The question is, how are you doing, Matt? Thank you, Joyce. I am doing well. I appreciate it. Nobody ever asks how I'm doing, so I appreciate that. So, before we get started, does anybody have any questions? Today we're talking about cooking oils and which ones are the healthiest and which ones to stay away from. So, to begin, what are some cooking oils that people use? Type them out. And which ones do we think are healthy? Remember, there's no wrong answers and there's no stupid questions. Which oils do people typically use? Anyone? Adrian? Olive? Okay. Olive. Does anybody cook with anything besides olive? Joyce, but I get the light. Now, doesn't that have nothing to do with, uh, that just has to do with the taste. I don't think it has anything to do with the macronutrients at all. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it just has to do with the taste. All right, so let's go through the different types of cooking oils out there. So we have avocado, coconut, canola, grapeseed, olive oil, sesame, peanut, sunflower, and vegetable. Now, out of those, which ones do give me the top three of which ones you think are the healthiest in terms of unsaturated fats, such as monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Give me the top three that you think would be the healthiest. Joyce says avocado and olive. Okay. Anybody else? Adrian thinks canola, olive, and coconut. Okay. Anybody else have any guesses? So remember, there's avocado, coconut, canola, grapeseed, olive oil, sesame, peanut, sunflower, and vegetable. Which ones are the healthiest? And by healthiest right now, I'm going by monounsaturated fats because it differs between mono and polyunsaturated. Coconut. What about coconut, Joyce? So to answer the question, in terms of monounsaturated fat, the highest is olive oil at 77%. The next highest is avocado oil at 70%. And then you have canola at 62%. So those are the top three in monounsaturated fat. Okay? Coconut, one of the better ones. We'll get to that, Joyce. There's a lot of confusion about coconut oil that I'll try and clear up. All right, so next we have polyunsaturated fat. This one actually differs a lot. So I'm not going to ask people what they think has the most polyunsaturated fat. So pretty much the ones that are highest in polyunsaturated are grapeseed. Then it goes sunflower, vegetable, and then sesame. Now, there's really um, both poly and mono unsaturated fats are good for you. So when we're saying which oil is the healthiest compared to these charts, um, you have to look at more than just the fats. So the next would be how much saturated fat is found in all of these. And at a whopping 92%, you have coconut oil. So coconut oil is pretty much all saturated fat, which is typically not good for you. But there's been a lot of studies that have shown that that's not the case in some circumstances. I think the research is still incomplete, but they're starting to find that just because you have a lot of saturated fat in your diet may not mean that it leads to heart disease. There could be a lot of other factors. This is very kind of um, cutting edge research that I've read. A lot of the common knowledge is that saturated fat is bad and increases heart disease. Now that may not be the case so much. There's more factors. So, let's start with avocado oil. So avocado oil is rich in monounsaturated fat. About 70% of it's monounsaturated. It has one of the highest monounsaturated fats among cooking oils, second only to olive oil. Um, but it's also low in polyunsaturated fats, which is not necessarily a good thing. Compared with other vegetable oils, avocado oil has a higher saturated fat content. Um, but there are better choices out there. And avocado oil tends to be very expensive, so probably not worth the money. And avocado oil is actually pretty trendy right now. First, it was coconut oil. Everybody was talking about coconut oil, and now it's avocado oil. But before you fall into these trend pits, do your research. Or I'll tell you. I'll do the research for you. As long as you keep listening to these webcams. So the next one is canola oil. Um, canola, uh, canola oil is high in monounsaturated fats, and it also has it's a good source of polyunsaturated. Um, in addition, canola oil also has the lowest level of saturated fat among cooking oils, so that's good. Um, and it's also a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. In 2013, there was a study published in the Journal of Nutrition that found canola, canola oil can help reduce your total cholesterol levels and LDL cholesterol levels, um, which reduces people's risk of heart disease. But that's just kind of a given because of the high amounts of good fats in it. So, as canola oil goes, it's probably one of the best oils out there. And it's not very expensive. Doesn't it depend on what you are using them for? Um, it does, but an oil's an oil. I mean, depending how much you're putting in there, uh, everything like that. These are still, I'm just trying to tell you which ones um, kind of have the most nutrition or the least nutrition. The nutrition facts aren't going to change on how you use it. That stays static. So it's up to you, kind of which ones you want to use and how you want to use it. So the next one is coconut oil. This is the one I want to kind of talk a lot about. Um, so I'm just going to read a little excerpt here. Consumers seem to have bought into the hype that it's among the healthier options, and vegans who eat no animal fat may use it as a butter substitute. In 2016 survey published in the New York Times, 72% of consumers rated coconut oil as a healthy food, compared with 37% of nutrition experts. So, what we can gather from that is it's just seen as a healthy trend. If you don't study nutrition and you just kind of go on what people say, which a lot of people do, um, you're not going to know any better. This article goes on to say that nutrition experts, in contrast, know that coconut oil is high in saturated fat, 92%, and recommended using it only sparingly. In fact, coconut oil has more saturated fat than the same amount of butter or lard. After evaluating all the studies available, a 2016 review published in the journal Nutrition Reviews found that people who consume coconut oil had higher total and LDL cholesterol levels than those who consume unsaturated fats, although the levels were a bit lower than people who use butter. The review authors concluded that there is little evidence that coconut oil has any benefit to the heart health compared with other types of saturated fat, such as butter or palm oil. After conducting a similar review, the 2017 advisory report from the American Heart Association did not recommend the use of coconut oil. The panel concluded that coconut oil increases LDL cholesterol and a known cause of heart disease and has no known offsetting favorable effects. So there you go. I believe there was one thing about coconut oil that uh, that people benefited from, and it was high in a certain amino acid. I forget what it was, but you know, it doesn't make up for the fact of that it's super high in saturated fats. So, any questions before we move on? Is this kind of opening up people's eyes, or is this stuff that people already know? So, anyways, let's move on. Can't talk today. Move on. So the next one is grapeseed oil. Uh, Grapeseed oil tends to be a favorite among chefs and foodies. Has a mild flavor and can be combined with other foods for stronger flavors. It's considered a good all-purpose oil, um, and it can prevent foods from becoming rancid and kind of keep foods fresh longer. It has a high percentage of polyunsaturated fat at 71%. Uh, and at 17%, it has the monounsaturated, and then 12% saturated. Um, Apparently, there hasn't been much research done on grapeseed oil. It's not much different from the other ones that we kind of talked about that are high in polyunsaturated fats. So the next one that's very widely used is extra virgin olive oil and pure olive oil. Uh, Olive oil um, is probably one of the better ones out there. Um, it plays a very prominent role in the Mediterranean diet. Did you already talk about sesame and peanut oil? No, Barb, I haven't yet. So it can be typically more expensive than other types of oils, but it also contains the most antioxidants, which is good to note. So olive oil typically has the highest percent of monounsaturated fats among cooking oils, and is also rich in antioxidants um, that may improve heart health. So out of all the oils that we've kind of gone over, um, olive oil is definitely one of the better ones. Um, there are a lot of studies that have been done. People who consumed a lot of olive oil generally had a lower rate of heart attack and strokes, and death from heart-related causes. But I assume they're doing studies with people that do the Mediterranean diet. So that diet alone is just healthy, which would lead to less heart attacks and strokes, etc. So I feel like that's kind of biased. So next is peanut oil. Nothing really, nothing really special about peanut oil. It has one of the highest monounsaturated fat content at about 49%, um, and a high polyunsaturated fat content at 33%. And it's usually just a good choice for cooking Asian-inspired meals. Other than that, nothing really special. Next is sesame oil, often used in Asian, Indian, and Middle Eastern cooking. Sesame oil is a good mix of polyunsaturated fat and monounsaturated fat. Polyunsaturated 46%, monounsaturated 40%. And the remaining is saturated fat. Once again, no real health benefits other than the fat content. Um, so nothing really special there. Any questions before I keep going? We have about we have two oils left. Any questions? Is this information helping people? Stuff that we don't know? Hopefully. All right. Good. So next one, sunflower oil. Sunflower oil has one of the highest concentrations of polyunsaturated fat at 69%. Supplies some monounsaturated fats at 20% and is low in saturated fat at 11%, which makes it an overall heart healthy option. So once again, probably one of the healthier options out there. Depends on how you're using it to cook. So there's been some studies that compared the heart health effects of a diet rich in conventional sunflower oil, a polyunsaturated fat, with a diet rich in canola oil, which has more monounsaturated fat. The researchers concluded that sunflower oil and canola oil had similar effects. Both reduce people's levels of total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol um, by about the same amount. So canola oil and sunflower oil um, are considered kind of the same nutritionally. Olive or sunflower, which is better? Well, so depending on which fats, olive oil is one of the lowest in polyunsaturated fat, but it's one of the highest in monounsaturated. Sunflower is one of the highest in polyunsaturated fat, and has about 20% monounsaturated. I think from what I went over, um, there's no real huge difference. So I wouldn't really worry about that. So the last one we got is vegetable oil or soybean oil. It's primarily polyunsaturated at 61%, 24 monounsaturated, 15% saturated. And as a bonus, soybean oil contains some omega-3 fats, which are heart-healthy fats, often found in salmon and sardines, but are less common in plant-based sources of food. Vegetable oil is pretty much versatile, and it's considered all-purpose, blah, blah, blah. So that pretty much concludes all of the oils that people use. You know, what I took away from this is, or what I wanted people to take away from this was the myth behind coconut oil, um, and just the overall um, contents of all the other oils. Which ones are good? Which ones are bad? Um, so I hope people learn some things. Did this information make people, or are people gonna cook differently, or you know, stop using certain oils that they used before? And were there any questions about anything? Well, I'm not going to use coconut oil anymore. There you go. So one more thing I actually wanted to, another thing about coconut oil is that it's very high in saturated fat, and some of the things that I was talking about is that there's been new studies with saturated fats that there's a there's a subset of saturated fat, um, or I forget what it's called, but it's been known. So yeah, so it's right here. So coconut oil is high in saturated fat. It contains more saturated fatty acids than any other hydrogenated oil. It is stable and has a long shelf life. It is used in movie theaters, popcorn, and South Asia cuisine for dishes like curries. A hydrated version of coconut oil is an ingredient in non-dairy creamers, blah, blah, blah. Um, Coconut oil contains lauric acid. That's what I was talking about before. It's high in lauric acid, which raises both HDLs and LDL cholesterol levels. This may improve your cholesterol profile. Although there are concerns that it may promote blah 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 by other means, virgin coconut oil contains a medium chain triglyceride, which is not as risky as some other saturated fats. Now, some of the health claims um, have been made for lauric acid, which coconut oil is high in. Uh, it's a wonder substance with possible antibacterial, antimicrobial, antiviral properties that could also, in theory, combat HIV, clear up acne, and speed up metabolism. So this is probably where a lot of the coconut oil trend is coming um, from those claims alone. But there's some quotes here from different doctors, researchers. There's a lot of claims that coconut oil may have health benefits, but there's no concrete scientific data yet to support this. So all in all, the hype is coming from unreliable sources, and there's not enough data out there. Uh, you might have seen it on Dr. Oz. Shocker. Cheryl, so it has benefits. No, don't take it like that. People are saying that it has benefits, but there's not enough research to prove that it does. I'm saying that's where a lot of the health, uh, that's why people are saying it's so healthy. It's been seen on Dr. Oz as a heart-healthy food that helps resist viruses, bacteria, yeast, fungi, um, boost thyroid function, improve blood sugar and control, and reduces the need for insulin. I love Dr. Oz. Well, you shouldn't. He's a fraud. Dr. Oz will sell stuff and promote stuff that pays him the most money. He's been to court many times for people suing him. So from everything that I've read, um, there isn't enough evidence to support that coconut oil is good for you. There's a lot of misinformation out there, um, with not enough research to back it up. So yeah, that's my takeaway from that. Do not believe all the stuff you see on TV. Don't believe the news. Listen to people that have researched the topics, that went to school for it, that read actual journals. A lot of people on TV, such as Dr. Oz, are being paid tons of money, and he doesn't care if he's promoting uh, good or bad products. So, any questions before I leave? Thank you for the info. Yes, you're very welcome, Cheryl. Thank you for coming. So what oils do people bake with? Vegetable and canola. I I don't know. I don't cook. All right. Any other questions? If not, bye. It was fun. Um, and I will decide the next topic for Thursday. And I hope to see you all there. Thank you.